Hello, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. I'm currently in a state of panic because of the shocking revelations from two famous actors at GH. For those of us who have followed Port Charles through every decade, every heartbreak, and every shocking twist, the show has become something far more than just a daytime drama. It's a companion, a ritual, a place where we can see our own struggles with love, loyalty, betrayal, and forgiveness played out on a grander scale. So when I heard the latest revelations from Steve, who plays Jason, and Bradford, who brings Spinelli to life in their podcast, I felt a deep sense of gratitude mixed with that familiar ache of understanding. They opened up in a way that felt so honest and raw, and it reminded me why this show and the people who make it still matter so much to all of us who have watched for a lifetime. Those of you who have been with me through the years know how much I cherish the quiet moments when the actors themselves step forward and share what life is really like behind the camera. In their recent conversation, Steve and Bradford spoke about the relentless pace of filming, the way schedules arrive by email now instead of those old paper contracts tucked into mailboxes. Back in the earlier days, everyone could glance at those sheets and see exactly who was working more, who was getting the bigger storylines, and it created a strange kind of transparency that today's digital system simply doesn't offer. Steve, who has been on contract for so long, laughed about how, when he was younger, he would look around and wonder why certain people seemed to be on set every single day while he waited for his turn. Bradford, who often works on a recurring basis, explained the other side of that equation with such clarity. Because he isn't locked into a long-term contract, the producers have to hold specific dates for him weeks in advance, confirm them, and even risk penalties if plans change. It's a different kind of pressure, one that forces him to keep his calendar open and his life flexible, sometimes buying plane tickets 14 days out just to save money, knowing full well that a single phone call could shift everything. I found myself nodding along as they described how the schedule can feel like it squeezes the very breath out of your personal life. Steve joked that he hadn't been to the dentist in 25 years, and we all laughed, but there was truth in it too. Even when you live close to the studio, coordinating family dinners, doctor appointments, school pickups, or simply carving out time for yourself becomes an act of negotiation. For those of us in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, that kind of constant uncertainty resonates deeply. We've lived long enough to know that life rarely follows a neat script. How many times have we had to rearrange our own plans because of a sick child, an aging parent, or an unexpected health issue? Hearing Jason and Spinelli talk about it so openly made me appreciate the human cost behind every episode we watch. It's not a complaint. It's a window into the reality that keeps our favorite characters alive on screen day after day. And yet, right in the middle of these honest reflections, we learned something that filled my heart with hope for the future of the show. Steve confirmed he is heading back to the studio in June after a brief hiatus, which means Jason will be returning to Port Charles sometime in the summer. After watching Jason get swept away by the WSB earlier this year, leaving behind a trail of unfinished business and unanswered questions, the news of his return feels like the steady hand of an old friend reaching out to steady the ship. I've always believed Jason is one of those rare characters who anchors the entire canvas. When he's present, the stories gain a certain gravity. When he steps away, the town feels a little less grounded. His temporary exit was dramatic, full of international intrigue and sacrifices made for people he loves. But knowing he's coming back tells me the writers still understand what makes General Hospital feel like home. They know we need Jason's quiet strength, his unwavering loyalty, and that brooding intensity that has carried us through so many stormy seasons. What struck me most about their conversation was how it illuminated the strange balance between art and life. Bradford described the process of being held for certain shooting days, first a tentative hold 2 weeks out, then a firm confirmation a week later, and how even that confirmation comes with the understanding that plans can still shift. For a recurring player like Spinelli, it means living with a certain level of professional uncertainty that those of us who have built stable careers later in life can relate to. Yet he does it with such good humor and dedication. I keep thinking about how Spinelli's character has evolved over the years, from the brilliant, socially awkward hacker who worshipped Jason like a big brother, to a man navigating fatherhood, romance, and the lingering shadows of loss. Their real-life friendship mirrors the bond their characters share, and that authenticity bleeds onto the screen in the best possible way. Of course, the current storylines have taken some wildly unexpected turns lately, and I'll admit I've had moments of doubt. The idea that certain characters from the past might resurface in ways that feel almost too convenient or emotionally overwhelming has me pausing to wonder if the writers are testing how much chaos Port Charles can endure before it starts, to feel exhausting rather than exciting. When Maxie woke up from her coma to discover layers of secrets involving people she thought were gone forever, I found myself asking the same question many of you probably did. Is this the kind of twist that deepens the drama or risks pushing it into territory that feels more like a soap opera cliché than genuine storytelling? But then I remember how General Hospital has always thrived on those big operatic swings. It's the same show that once had us believing in super couples who could survive plane crashes, memory loss, and international crime syndicates. The difference now is that the actors themselves are older, wiser, and more reflective, and that shows in the performances. Steve's portrayal of Jason has matured into something quieter, yet more powerful. A man who has carried the weight of too many goodbyes, and yet still chooses to protect the people he loves. I've spent many afternoons reflecting on how the show's future seems tied to these very real conversations happening off-camera. The fact that Steve and Bradford are willing to pull back the curtain and let us see the scheduling pressures, the contract differences, the personal sacrifices, makes me trust the show more, not less. It proves that the people behind General Hospital understand their audience. We're not casual viewers flipping channels. We're the ones who have watched babies grow into adults, who have mourned losses alongside the characters, who have cheered when justice finally arrived after years of waiting. We deserve to know that the men and women who bring these stories to life are human too, juggling the same kinds of challenges we face in our own lives. Looking ahead, I believe Jason's return will serve as a much-needed reset button for several interlocking plots that have grown increasingly tangled. There are threats looming from powerful organizations, old alliances being tested, and new romantic possibilities that could either heal old wounds or open fresh ones. I've always been partial to the idea that Jason and Spinelli's friendship is the emotional core of so many larger stories. When Spinelli turns to Jason for advice, even in the middle of his own complicated family life, it feels like the show remembering its roots. Their partnership has survived so much hacks, heartbreaks, and heroic rescues, and I suspect it will be the steady thread that helps us navigate whatever wild developments the summer brings. There are times when I worry that the pace of modern soaps can feel relentless, that the constant need for ratings and cliffhangers might overshadow the slower, more character-driven moments that made us fall in love with Port Charles in the first place. Yet listening to Steve and Bradford speak so candidly about the demands of their work reminded me that the heart of the show is still beating strong. The pressure they describe isn't a sign of weakness, it's proof of dedication. They show up, learn pages of dialogue overnight, hit their marks, and somehow make it all look effortless. That's the magic we've come to expect, and it's the reason we keep tuning in week after week, year after year. As someone who has spent decades analyzing stories not just on television but in literature too, I can tell you that General Hospital remains one of the most ambitious ongoing narratives in American entertainment. It juggles dozens of characters, multiple generations, and themes that touch on everything from corporate corruption to the quiet courage of everyday parenting. The current era feels particularly layered because the actors themselves have lived through so much of it. Steve's decision to take time for family and then return with renewed energy speaks volumes about the kind of commitment that keeps a show like this alive. It reassures me that the future of General Hospital is in caring hands, hands that understand both the business realities and the emotional contract they have with us, the viewers who have grown old right alongside the residents of Port Charles. So here we are, my dear friends, standing at another crossroads in a story that has already spanned more than 60 years. Jason will be back soon, bringing with him the promise of resolution and perhaps a few more surprises. Spinelli will continue to be the brilliant, loyal heart of so many subplots. And the rest of us will keep watching, coffee or tea in hand, ready to laugh, cry, and occasionally shake our heads at the sheer audacity of it all. I don't pretend to know exactly where the writers will take us next, but I do know this. The show that has comforted us through our own life's upheavals still cares enough to let its stars speak honestly about the toll their work takes. That honesty, that willingness to share the behind-the-scenes truth, only deepens my affection for General Hospital.